Hey guys, Welsknight here, and welcome to a quick and dirty texture pack update video. This is going to be pretty quick. There's not a whole lot of changes. I did a very extensive video on the textures that were released as part of Snapshot 18W43A. Or I think technically it was 43B, but either way. And I want to go over the version 3 of the textures, which was basically what was released with 18W44A. First of all, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you and credit to Reddit user CubeVids, who made this amazing website. I'll put a link to this in the description, but basically it just compares all the various versions of the textures. The originals, version 2, which is what we used on Hermitcraft for a long time, version 3, which came out with 18W43A, and then version 3.1, which is the most recent version as of right now. And it's awesome because what we have here is basically a grid. This shows the original texture, and then if it's darkened out over here, that means it wasn't changed from the previous version. So like I can look at this and I can go, oh look, we can tell that Cobblestone has not changed in the latest since the previous video I made. So this is going to make this a lot easier, and there's not a ton of changes to go over, so should be a fairly short video. Let's just go ahead and dive into it. First of all, the stone. I think the stone is pretty similar. It seems to be maybe a little bit darker than the previous one. It does seem like some of the lines have been removed, which I think is good. There were kind of too many horizontal lines in the previous one. So I think this is overall an improvement. It's still going to take some getting used to from the original stone, but that's fine. Cobblestone, all this has not changed. And as I said, I did a very extensive video on this version, this column of this third column of textures. So I'm not going to cover basically any of that stuff because that video was like an hour long. I'm not going to go into it again. So none of this has changed. Sand. This is probably the biggest change with since the previous one. And this new sand texture right here, I actually really, really like. I think this is an improvement over the original texture. This one I really did not like. The color was just very wrong. The texture itself I wasn't a big fan of because it wasn't seamless. It didn't tile very well. And when you have a desert where you've got tons and tons and tons and tons of this texture, it needs to be a seamless texture. This one does a much, much better job. The color is an improvement as well. It's not as light as the original sand, but it's also not as kind of pinkish as this third column texture. So I actually really like this sand a lot. I think it's a huge improvement over the one that I railed on pretty extensively in the previous video. Smooth sandstone, on the other hand, I'm not a fan of. It doesn't look smooth to me. It looks a lot rougher. I mean, you could just kind of tell looking at the textures. This is how smooth the original was. This is how smooth version 2 was. Even version 3 smooth sandstone was smoother than this, like, version 3.1. This I'm not a fan of. If they took, like, the version 2 texture, but made it the color of the version 3.1 sand up here, I think that would be perfect. Like, that would be a great solution. Kind of merge this one and this one together so that smooth sandstone actually looks smooth. I think it needs to be clearly distinguishable from regular sand, and this really looks like it could be just a regular sand texture. The sandstone, like, cobbly texture bit, I actually quite like. I think it's probably the best one. I think it's probably the best one yet. I like this one quite a lot. I still wish they'd make an option that would get rid of this kind of top bar along the top, but that's not really a texture pack update sort of change. That's more of like I wish Minecraft as a whole did that differently, because I mean the top bar has kind of always been in there, but I wish that would kind of go away. The cut sandstone right here, or polished sandstone, or whatever you want to call it, same complaints as the smooth. This needs to be smoother, I think. I'm fine with the color of it. I just, these little grainy kind of pixels make it look a little bit too spotty, a little bit too much like regular sand for me. And it looks like red sand and red sandstone really haven't changed much since version 2. Let's see. Diorite now has the previous polished diorite back, which I think is good. I still am not a huge fan. In fact, I quite dislike the... Has that changed? I don't think the unpolished diorite has changed. If it has, it's very subtle. But I'm not a fan of this. I think the best unpolished diorite texture so far was the one in version 2. I'd still like something even a little bit more, I don't know. Andesite now has its polished andesite variant back, the one that was in version 2, which is good. The unpolished, I don't really have an opinion on. I think it's about the same as version 3 of the texture, so this third column. Honestly, I thought that the version 3 texture was like perfect and didn't need to be changed whatsoever. These seem to be about the same to me. I don't really have a preference between the two, but I think this is a huge improvement over version 2 of the textures over here. Obsidian has improved, I think, from version 3.1. This might be the best Obsidian texture in my opinion. I don't know. Obsidian's one that Minecraft has never really gotten right. I will reiterate what I've said several times, and that's if they took this version 2 texture and got rid of the very light purple spots and made those like darker, so it was more consistent across the kind of color spectrum, I think this would be a perfect texture. The wood has not changed whatsoever, and I've already spoken about those at length. In fact, I think that's all of the actual changes, except for cactus way down here at the bottom. And I gotta say, I love this new cactus texture. I have never really been a fan of the original cactus color. It's way too like fluorescent for my taste. It's the green is too vibrant and it looks very out of place. I think this is much, much better. This is actually fairly similar to what I did in my my Kingdoms texture pack, except mine was a little bit more olive. But I'm totally good with this. Like, this is a wonderful cactus texture. I'm sure that this kind of border here on the top will be changed eventually to match the rest of it, but nothing really to say there. I do want to touch on one other thing before I forget, because I don't think I mentioned it last time, and that's the snow in version 3. I love this snow texture. This is fantastic. I think this is probably the best snow texture out of all of them. And I don't think I really mentioned that at all last time. This is because I didn't really notice it. Because it's such a bright spectrum of colors that it's kind of hard to make out the details unless you have them all side by side just like this. I really like this snow texture. It's really good. I like it a lot. And then as far as the gems, gold, diamond, emerald, if they did something like this version 2 diamond texture for all three, that would probably be my favorite out of all of them. Just get rid of this bevel. It makes it seem kind of weird. I'm not a fan of the bevel. I wish it was just a flat, you know, air quotes, flat surface. Sort of like this version 2 diamond or like the original golden diamond. But I think that's about all I have to say. I mean, as I said, there's not a whole lot of major changes. So once again, huge thank you and shout out to CubeVids from the Minecraft Reddit for putting this website together. This makes it so much easier. And I will put a link to this in the description if you want to examine these yourself with a fine-tooth comb. But that's going to do it for me, guys. If you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. Links in the description below, so check that out as well. Otherwise, my friends, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.